Hello everyone, thank you for participating in this second sustainability reporting webinar in collaboration with our member Wei Wang from Singapore.
Hi everybody. On my part, what I will do is I will elaborate on the sustainability reporting within Asia Pacific region, and then the other participants, Taurine, will elaborate on the UN initiatives in terms of sustainability reporting. Tripti, then my colleagues within the TGS network will talk about Women Novator, which is an initiative to narrow down the gender gap. And finally, Atash will talk about his perspective of sustainability reporting in Mauritius. Okay, so without further ado, let me just start. My name is Wei Guang. I'm a director of CA Trust PAC. And I have been doing this sustainability reporting work for a while in Asia Pacific region. And I have some familiarity in terms of sustainability reporting. So in today's very short 10-minute session, what I will cover is I'll cover three main things. I'll cover broadly what sustainability reporting is about and what it entails to do sustainability reporting. Second, I'll give you an overview of what sustainability reporting is about. And thirdly, I will then speak about the importance of embedding SR into ERM. Right, and sustainability initiative goes into four big areas, and the areas are called EESG, right? Economic, environmental, social, and G. The G is governance, which is embedded within economics. So this is largely the framework which is very widely used in Asia Pacific. Now, again, this is a further elaboration on what environmental, what social means. Environmental, it could go on pollution, your carbon footprints, your conservation efforts. Social, it looks at people, your employees, your consumers, your suppliers, right? And EESG. So the other E is what is the other E? The other E is actually economic, but the other economy actually goes into the indirect economic impact. Like, for example, building infrastructures in the country that you operate in. So this is largely the EESG frameworks, which a lot of companies, in particular listed companies in Asia Pacific, leverage on as part of their sustainability reporting framework. Now, this is in Singapore. Every listed issuer will need to describe their effort in terms of sustainability reporting in their annual reports. Globally as well, global now, and I think Taurine can speak about it. Sustainability reporting is really like a movement sweeping across the globe, and more people are undertaking this sustainability effort. In Asia Pacific in particular, in Asia, those regime that list those under this particular regime, listed companies on the stocks exchanges are required to report their sustainability effort mandatorily, and these are Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Philippines, and Indonesia by next year. Right, so these are the countries which is mandatory for all listed issuers on the stock exchange to have a certain level of sustainability reporting in the annual report. Right, in Europe, for example, UK and some EU countries is mandatory. The countries of which sustainability reporting remains voluntary is US. In Asia, China, Australia, Thailand, and India. These countries, for these countries, sustainability reporting remains voluntary to a very large extent. Now, the Asia resource system, right? Next, I'm going to talk about, and this is real. This is real because if you look at the spending in the area of renewable energy is really huge. For non-fossil fuel, for example, in China, right? China spend more than 100 million per year for non-fossil energy, right? And aims at acquiring 15% of the total energy consumption for non-fossil fuel and renewable resources by 2020. for hydropower, right, which represents 80% of the country's renewable energy, and 70% of the new generating capacity, right? And the solar sector employs many people right now in China. So China, this is largely the China plan into sustainability. So you have on the slide here, you got smoke eating tower, right, which deploy the smoke eating towers that suck in smoke and pump out purified air. Then China also have this initiative of wanting to ban diesel vehicles from by 2030. Right, and there's also the bicycle which suck in smoke and also release clean air each time you pedal. So there are many initiatives in China and other areas of Asia Pacific which are aimed at sustainability, the sustainability effort. India, for example, right, has plans to start start new nuclear reactors and solar farms, and also to produce 200 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030, or 2022. Okay. Hanoi, for example, right? Hanoi, right? They aim at having a city with very few motorcycle by 2030. Can you imagine a Hanoi, right? A Vietnam without motorcycle, right? So this is real, and the government are really taking a step forward to put forth this sustainability effort. In Philippines, for example, they have installed tidal powers to harness the oceanic energy, right? That will allow the entire island, such as Kapу, to be powered entirely off grid. Now, so these are the efforts that you have seen in Asia, right? China, India, Philippines, and Hanoi. The governments are putting efforts in terms of installing and instituting rules and regulations and encouraging the use of renewable energy. Now, next is about really embedding SR into ERM. Now, this is a very participants are always very keen, and I talk to various groups of participants from French Chamber of Commerce, or up in February, I've actually went up to Malaysia to give a talk on how to embed SR into ERM. Because right now what happened is that SR is typically undertaken by the corporate communication guys, right? And ERM are by the internal audit department. So the two never talk, it's still in a silo. So they are very keen to understand how to embed SR into ERM. Now, both ERM and SR are functions primarily focused on identification and prioritization of the risk. So technically, all the risks which are identified under SR should be part of my bigger ERM framework, and that should be monitored on a regular basis. Right, and I think the good thing if you do this is actually you get the whole organization to be more aware of the social and environment factors which manifest themselves over a long run, right? And also these risks, these sustainability risks actually get tabled to the board, because from the ERM perspective, actually only the top 10 or the 15 risks eventually get tabled to the board. So this actually improve the entire transparency of how the sustainability is run. So I very much encourage people to actually embed the SREs as part of the ERM. Now, as part of my work, what I usually do is I combine both SR and ERM into one, and this is the sort of my framework which I actually presents to my client or to participants. Now, on the top left corner, you see the entity objective that is actually modified from COSO, and I added in one more factor called sustainability, right? Because sustainability is very key now and is missing. And on the right, you see a long kind of belt. Now that is taken from ISO 31,000 actually. It's essentially a risk management process. So once we have embedded this sustainability into this entire risk management framework, we can better then manage the entire sustainability risk. Now, another good thing about this is I think I sort of modified it from the mere risk angle to risk and opportunities, because from sustainability perspective, there are a lot of opportunities from the marketing perspective, especially on when there's a risk, there's always opportunity. So it's very important to look at two sides of it. Traditional risk manager typically just look at one side of the things, which is risk, which I think is very unhealthy at this juncture, because in Chinese, there's a word called crisis, which is 危机. When there's a risk, there's always an opportunity. So I encourage participants to actually think of both sides of the coins now, from the sustainability perspective and also from the risk perspective. Now, this is essentially the framework which I use to analyze sustainability risks as well. Now, the typical risk manager are very focused on threats, which I think is a totally obsolete idea. From my perspective, I like to focus on threats and opportunities, especially from the sustainability angles. There are actually more opportunity than threat. Now, so this is what I have for you. So I'll pass on the mic to Taurine. I'll get off the line for now. Taurine, would you want to share with us your perspective on sustainability reporting?
Yes, thank you very much. Taurine?
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Can you share with us your presentation? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see it?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Great. So yes, I'm Thorin Schreiber. I am the regional manager for Europe for the United Nations Global Compact. That means I work with our 4,000 companies in the European region. That's the largest regional group of companies. We have 10,000 companies in the Global Compact overall. We are entering almost our 20th year. We were founded originally because Kofi Annan, who of course passed away last August, almost a year ago, he in 1999 announced at the World Economic Forum that we know we cannot achieve our sustainable goals without the full partnership of the private sector, of companies like yourselves who are responsible and principled actors driving forward sustainability. So we started with about 40 companies back in 2000 when we launched, but today we're nearly 10,000. These are companies working alongside 3,000 non-businesses. That includes industry or associations, schools, NGOs, and foundations. They're working in 160 plus countries and cover around 66 million employees. That's not to mention all of the workers within their supply chains. They're working on largely the issues of human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. And of course, the Sustainable Development Goals that were launched in 2015 that I'm sure you know about, which are our world's agenda, our KPIs for 2030 to reach our targets for these goals by then. Businesses that engage with us, and indeed businesses around the world, know that the way we do business has evolved. Sustainability isn't an option. It's not philanthropy. It's actually become a competitive necessity. It gives companies an edge. And we're here to help companies and organizations navigate the very complex maze of sustainability, especially the many UN agencies and other governmental agencies working on issues like climate change, like becoming Paris Agreement compatible and committing to 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming rather than the 4 degrees we're on today. But this can be very challenging, a very confusing ecosystem of sustainability. And many companies find challenges, including the lack of tools and training, or just the resources, the people they need to engage on this. We also see that consumers and investors are asking companies what they're doing. Is this a sustainable investment? Especially the millennials and Generation Z don't want to be investing in things that are going to ultimately destroy their world. We build those investor relationships and trust for the companies that engage with us. And we build industry standardization, helping cross-pollinate the good practices we see from companies who are doing the responsible and sustainable thing when it comes to their business operations. So the Global Compact's a guide and a coach to help cut through all that complexity, to bring companies to the UN, to give them a voice at the table, which we know is absolutely needed if we're going to achieve our 2030 goals. Now, one of the biggest challenges companies have is they're aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, which you see on screen, and the bar chart to the left shows 92% of companies reported in 2015 after the goals launched that they knew what they were, but only 13% actually knew which tools they needed to embed the goals and drive the goals within their own business operations. So that's why the Global Compact has, over the last 4 years, developed many benefits, tools, and resources for our companies that engage with us to be better actors, to report and highlight the good practices so that others can emulate them and they can be recognized for what they do. So the three main things the Global Compact does with companies is, first, build trust and transparency. It's a platform for companies to showcase their commitments and progress on sustainability through principle-based platforms that are all anchored in UN conventions and resolutions that all 193 member states have agreed to. And that legitimacy, that agreement from all UN member states is a very powerful thing. When a company is operating in a given country or region, it makes a big difference that they're there working on the goals that all Global Compacts companies and indeed all countries of the UN have agreed to. Secondly, we help companies achieve their own internal sustainability objectives by giving them guidance, access to the world's experts through trainings, tools, and support, which I'll tell you about in the next few slides. Then finally, we help companies be part of the conversation and shape the world's sustainability agenda. We have the UN General Assembly coming up this September, as it is every September. We bring CEOs and sustainability practitioners to the UN to be at the table, side by side with heads of state and government, with UN chiefs, with the world's leading experts, so that they can connect on the partnerships and collaborative activities to drive forward the goals. Over the last 20 years, we've developed many what we call good practices. We say good practices rather than best practice because we believe everyone has the potential to improve. So it's a good practice. Our library is very robust, full of curated content on any given issue that a company would like to either learn more about or improve their work on. That includes a lot around the environment, science-based targets for carbon-based pricing models that work within their industry, but also gender equality and poverty reduction and all of the SDGs you've seen on the previous pages. We have launched, I think, the most important learning tool of the last year, the world's first online academy for sustainability. This academy has sessions online, has e-learning courses and series with the world's experts on a range of issues, and any employee of a company engaging with the Global Compact at the full participant level has access to this academy, can have their own dashboard where they take their online learning classes and become better practitioners in a number of areas. Here's a few examples on the screen of the different session courses that we offer. And this is pertinent to this call today, how to become the most transparent and robust reporting for your company. 3 steps to integrate the Global Reporting Institute standards. There are a partner on our reporting platform, but also how to set a science-based target or carbon pricing model within your company that aligns with your industry standards. Addressing the gender pay gap is another you see on here. So a really wide range of tools, resources, and training to help companies and their employees become better sustainability practitioners. We have specific tools that can benchmark against your industry or the world. Some of our most popular tools currently are the gender gap analysis tool. That is a way to see how you're doing compared to the world at large on gender equality. We know that if the world overall doesn't take action more quickly, gender equality, gender parity globally won't reach actual equality until 200 years from now. So we're asking companies to self-assess and say, really, how many women do they have in senior management? We know globally it's only 24%, and many places are lagging well behind that, but 24% is not equal. We know that. We also have a science-based target tool to make sure that the environmental commitments a company is agreeing to are actually based on accepted and agreed upon science-based targets and the Paris Agreement itself. And finally, we have action platforms that are the focus of the UN Global Compact this year. And they range from low carbon resilient development and the carbon pricing models that are part of that platform. Also financial innovation, how to actually tap into the financial institutions, the institutional investors, the big investors in the world that can actually drive forward and help fund the goals the way we know they need to by 2030. Decent work and global supply chains is a key platform for most companies. It's certainly important to them all to know what's happening down their supply and value chain to understand that they don't, and they won't be surprised by suddenly, for instance, finding out that there is forced labor or child labor down their supply chain outside of their own direct operations. But we're helping companies share and develop codes of conduct to their suppliers that make sure that their brands are not at risk of human rights violations or labor violations, for instance. And many others, including peace, justice, and strong institutions, which are, of course, the foundation of healthy societies where business can flourish. And a new one we launched with the government of Norway just last September on sustainable ocean. We all know that the ocean will have more plastic than fish in the next decades if we don't do something. I think many of us have seen straws going out of restaurants. That's one small step towards this, but we're helping business understand what they in their industry can do to actually help save the ocean from the catastrophe that we're seeing happen now. Finally, we mentioned earlier events that we bring our Global Compacts companies to. We have many around the world. Regionally, we call those Making Global Goals Local Business. We have a high-level political forum next month in July, where governments all come to New York and business can join them in conversation. We, in September, especially have the UN General Assembly, where a number of events encourage companies to join, including our SDG Business Forum, which will be hundreds of UN Global Compact sustainability practitioners, and events like the Secretary General's Climate Summit, which we work closely on with them, specifically focused on 1.5 degree pathway to global warming, Paris Agreement compatibility, and all of the work we need to do with companies and governments to make sure we reach our climate goals in the next years. And then finally, in our Geneva office, there is the annual UN Forum on Business and Human Rights, which is also open to companies to be part of the conversation. A few stats on what participating companies say about their engagement with the Global Compact. In our annual survey, which we do every year, the most recent one from last year, 80% of companies said it advanced sustainability in their own company. It made their sustainability work better. 66% said it guided their sustainability reporting and helped them be more transparent to their stakeholders and investors and the world at large. 68% said it drove implementation of their sustainability policies and practices, and 48% said it actually shaped the company's vision on how to be more relevant in this day of, and competitive in this day of sustainable business having the edge that we know it does. And we've actually had some metrics-based proof that higher ESG, environmental, social, and government scores, which is what companies participating in the compact end up having, they increase companies' margin premiums. They give higher market valuation and positively impact creditworthiness in the long term for companies. So really actually have strong effects on the triple bottom line for a company. Companies in the compact have improved financial performance. A recent Oxford and Arabesque meta-analysis of 200 different studies showed that good ESG performance results in things like lower cost of capital, 90% lower, better operational performance at 88%, and 80% better stock price performance. And indeed 7% higher return on equity for companies that do have high ESG performance. And then supply chain, which we've mentioned briefly before. Recently in Paris, the EcoVadis summit in March, which I attended, actually gave a whole session showing that in an analysis of about 30,000 companies, those that were part of the Global Compact actually had higher CSR management systems and outperformed their peers on supply chain sustainability management, which of course, I mentioned before, is very important to companies to know that their supply chains are healthy. And finally, what's happened in the last months, especially on the US side, is investors are really taking note that sustainable and responsible companies are more competitive in the long term. BlackRock, the world's largest institutional investor, has actually started using the Global Compact 10 principles to vet their externally traded funds. So as a mechanism to make sure their investments are more sustainable. JP Morgan and BNY Mellon, other financial institution banks, have followed suit as well. And of course, on the European side, we have banks like ING that have been doing this for some time, green bonds and the like. Again, higher return on equity. 25% of assets under management are currently tagged as sustainable investments, which is a huge rise over the last decade. And we expect 20 times growth over the next decade to a market of about 250 billion for sustainable investments. This is a lot of information about the different benefits which I have talked about earlier in this presentation that companies that become part of the compacts can have access to. And finally, we like to be fair and equitable. So we have an annual fee for engagement with the compact. It is a sliding scale. For the smallest companies, they can actually engage for free if they're under 50 million in annual revenue. For our largest companies with over 5 billion, the fee is higher, as you see here on screen. We don't want to exclude anyone. We just want to make sure that everyone pays according to the size of their company. And finally, I'll end with our three heads of our board. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General, is our chair. And Paul Pullman of Unilever, who recently stepped down but is focusing on a lot of his sustainability work now, is our vice chair, as is Bola Adesola, who's CEO of Standard Chartered Bank and vice chair of the UN Global Compact as well. And they all thank our participating companies and know that from their own experience that this takes very courageous leadership. There will be bottlenecks, but it has benefits for companies and benefits for the world at large to be those responsible and more competitive, sustainable actors in the new landscape that we're all working within today. So I'll end there and say thank you. believe there's one chat coming through.
Okay, thank you very much, starting for this overview. It's really, really important for us your participation. And next, maybe we continue with triptych. And in the end of the webinar, if you have a questions for Torin, they are welcome. So maybe triptych, can you continue, please?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. Hi Thorin. Great to hear. Thanks, me, for starting the conversation on sustainable goals. So one goal in Asia and India we have focused on is gender equality. We been working on women professionals and women entrepreneurship, supporting them in different ways in last 4 years. But this year, with TGS, we have adopted this over on a global level. This is a virtual incubator for women. Woman Innovator is what we have created. The whole objective is to bring in different value partners to bring a complete ecosystem, support ecosystem for development of women. We've been in India working in 100 cities and 85 sectors, which includes, as I said, helping women not only in women entrepreneurship, but also in their career options, guiding them by bringing strong networks, mentors, giving them educational trainings. And this is all like a CSR initiative for us. No fees being charged from any of the women who we are helping, from helping them starting their business, registering their companies. Because in India, at least we know that women, they face a lot of challenge to come out of their comfort zone and start their businesses or start their career options. Also by helping them in creating their reach, telling about their story on our YouTube channel, helping them connect for access to capital, also different government schemes which are available across the country, which they can make use of. Few of our mission is to provide them accessible, affordable, and quality education across India. We also work on welfare with welfare association and giving priorities to all levels of women, providing justice and creating work opportunities, equal work opportunity. Recently in India, government is working on bringing in a proposal wherein the companies which are employing women in equal numbers will be getting an opportunity to supply to government contracts. Also, through Women Innovator, we propose mandatory procurement of 3% procurement from women entrepreneurs, which has become mandatory for all the government organization. I'll just also to forge a positive visibility for women and empower a leadership journey is one of our key goals, and also communicating about the success story across the globe and helping them achieve their dreams. This is a list of cities in India which we are focusing on, wherein the way we are working is getting influencers or women who are ready to help other women to be our touch point, so that we can communicate to them in these small cities. And whatever is available in a metro city is also available to these women, the education, guidance, and everything across these 100 cities. Also, the sectors which we have chosen, wherein we have selected influencer, women influencer in each category to guide our selected women faces in future, are from these 87 sector. A few of our prestigious jury involve celebrity cricketers, actors, chairmen of different funds, and innovative scientists and journalists from a successful TV channel, and even success stories of people who've been now recognized all across the world for their, like we have the first jury has Arunam Chalam. He was known as the Padman of India, launching pads concept in India. Similarly, we have a very accomplished jury in for, so this year we have like we have been in every sector, in every city, 100 cities and 85 sectors, we have 6 jury each. So there will be application for 185 categories where people will be applying, women will be applying for the awards, and also best 3 out of that will be chosen to be virtually incubated to help them in revenue contract, media reach, getting them funding. Also getting them part of different program. Like last year, we have a tie with University of Texas and US Embassy to incubate like the best out of 100 women was selected. One was sent on a Virangna project to Australia to evaluate the opportunity for supplying her products in Australia. So in this way, and also we helped like 20 women in crowdfunding, and we got a coverage for almost 40 women in successful online portals and digital media. So the whole objective of our is to make the stories available, help them in getting a right network to increase their revenues and sales. We have to ensure that we are reaching out locally to these 100 cities and 85 sectors. We do a lot of business plan competition where women come on stage and in like 60 seconds first under the elevator pitch competition, they talk about the businesses and what they're looking for, what kind of support they're looking for, whether mentorship or they're looking for fundraising or they're looking for mentorship. So they choose and they also tell the audience about it. We do matchmaking accordingly, and then we have a detailed business competition wherein if a person wants to raise funds, they have to go to a next round of business plan competition. We have W Talks, wherein in W Talks we go to small cities and we invite audience and we invite our stakeholders and jury members as speaker. And the whole idea of is to achieve 3 goals, which is Stratathon, Brandathon, and Westathon, making them aware about these 3 concepts. And we also work with women on making them available these opportunity for all the international female tours, wherein they can go and explore their or highlight their businesses. So these are the few of the embassy meets we've been doing to bring women aware about their whatever business opportunity they can do with those countries. We launched this 8th March event, and I'm the last few. This was launched last year. This year, 8th March, we launched the virtual incubator for women, and application was online. So we have complete support from our Ministry of Small and Medium Entrepreneur, and UN Women was part of this, supporting us. We've been, last year we created Asia Books of Record, and we was, as 100 women came on stage and told their stories. This is about the success stories of ours. And this slide I will quickly run through. We also work with women, female students in different colleges. We work with different associations to make a more impactful, and we're working very closely on innovative ideas. So this year we would be doing the award on 30th November and 1st December in India, and similarly we're planning in TGS Global UN TGS Global in Singapore on 13th and 14th of November, where we are concentrating on finance and fintech women. So we will be selecting from different countries and we will be inviting them to be supported. This is it. Thank you so much for all the time.
Thank you very much, Tripti, for your presentation. So, Akshay, is your...
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, of course. Perfect.
Well, I haven't got a presentation. I couldn't do that, but definitely I'll try to present you something. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, great. Should I start? Yeah, actually, I'm actually from TGS Clark and Robbins, a member firm of TGS Global in Mauritius, and you might know that Mauritius is a very small island in the Indian Ocean. It's just a small dot on the global map with about 1.2 million people living here. And but what is famous? People know Mauritius for being the paradise island on Earth. It's really beautiful. It's always sunny here. And for you, for people who do not know where Mauritius is exactly, it is in the Indian Ocean, just next to Madagascar. In September 2015, Mauritius, together with 193 member states, adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, transforming our world, ending poverty, protecting our planet, and ensuring that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. The 2030 Agenda is a plan for achieving a better future for all, laying out a path over the next 15 years to end extreme poverty, fight inequality and injustice, and protect our planet. Now, the 17th Sustainable Development Goal of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by the UN Summit in September 2015, came into force on 1st January 2016, implying that nations will individually or collectively make effort and attempts to end poverty, fight inequality, and take steps to tackle climate change so that the world becomes a better place to live for us and for the future generations to come. Now, monitoring the Sustainable Development Goals in Mauritius is not that simple. It's not a simple task. Now I'll just run through the 17 points for the sustainable development goals and try to see where we've reached in Mauritius exactly. Now the first one is no poverty, and today in Mauritius we do not have cases of extreme poverty like everyone. They are quite at least they are having something to eat every day. There is no extreme poverty at all. This brings me to the next point, which is zero hunger. And in Mauritius, personally, I haven't heard of any. We are just a small island. It takes about 1 hour to travel from the south to the north. I haven't heard of any extreme poverty cases in Mauritius. We do have poverty, people are poor, but not that extreme poverty, because we do have the government supporting people having financial in difficult financial situations. Now, coming to the third point, the good health and well-being. Just to tell you that Mauritius is a welfare state. You do have free hospitals, free healthcare centers. So anyone just needing health treatments, even from treating a minor fever to a major heart transplant or heart operation, you get everything for free in Mauritius. It's free health care in Mauritius. Now, quality education. Again, education is free for pre-primary primary students, like you have even for the secondary students, like colleges and everything. Now the government is even thinking of making universities, tertiary education free. Now, a fourth point, gender equality. Tripti spoke a lot about gender equality in Mauritius as well. We're having there are great initiatives taken by non-governmental organizations, and today we don't have gender inequality as such in Mauritius. There might be, but overall, um, the, if I take the example of the top 10 audit firms in Mauritius, we do have equal number of partners, female partners and male partners. Now, coming to the fifth point, clear water and sanitation. Um, Clearly, we do have clear water. There, people think that Mauritius is in Africa, and we do have problems of water and sanitation. But here, everything is quite good for the time being. Good water supply to everyone, to the 1.2 million inhabitants here. Now, a 6 point, affordable and clean energy. Again, you do have Mauritius is a pollution, I should say, between inverted commas, a pollution-free country where you have fresh air, good sunlight, good solar energy, and extra. Now, the seventh point, decent work and economic growth, definitely. We recently had the budget, the national budget presented by the Prime Minister, the Honorable Pravin Jagnat, and the Minister of Finance. And we saw that in the budget there is definitely constant growth of the economy, and definitely together with sustainability. And now, eighth point, innovation infrastructure. Today, Mauritius, we have the safe city where there is great innovation, infrastructure, infrastructural progress. You have the cameras being installed almost everywhere in the country. It's quite small country, as I was telling you. Now, the ninth point is reduce inequalities. Again, there might be cases, but overall, it's not like some African countries where you have great inequalities. And 10 point, the number 10, sustainable cities and communities. Definitely the green energy, solar energy. Nowadays, the government is even encouraging people to use solar energy, and even the authorities are buying excess energy from people producing them via solar or wind energy. Now, coming to the next point is responsible consumption and production. Today we have fast food. It's like we are banning plastic straws, and even banning plastic in Mauritius. There are serious rules and regulations where shops and supermarkets, they don't have the right to sell plastic to people because, coming to the next point, life below water. Today, you have even pollution. You have pollution. Aquatic life being destroyed, and everything due to plastic. So the great initiative by the government of Mauritius is the banning plastic and usage of more organic things, natural things, like using fibers to supply takeaways, or even containers, or even bags. Now, life on land, definitely great initiatives in Mauritius, peace and justice and strong institutions. Yeah, this point is very important, I believe, and definitely Mauritius is a peaceful country. You do have justice, very strong institutions. Um, for example, the ICAC, it is anti-corruption, fighting against corruption, and you have even the Financial Reporting Council, the Financial Services Commission. So many institutions set up to promote justice in Mauritius, and definitely the last point, partnership for all goods. for all goals. Sorry, and definitely we are doing a great job in Mauritius. Um, it's Mauritius is part of the African continent, although it's separate just next to Madagascar. But for sure, it's adopting a great ways to combat pollution. Just as I told you before, the banning of plastic in Mauritius, in supermarkets, in shops, and everywhere. So you have strong rules and regulations, even as regard poverty, which is a serious problem, and inequality, a serious problem in the African countries. For sure, in Mauritius, we don't have these problems. I think I've covered everything. Thank you very much. I know my presentation was quite short,
No,
but hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.
perfect. Thank you very much for this wishes.
So everyone, thank you to Thorin for giving an overview and how sustainability is done in Europe. And for Asia, thank you to Tripti and Weekwang, and of course Akshay for Africa. Now I see we have some people from Latin America in the webinar as well. So I would like to ask them, how is development in the sustainability area done there? Are there any regulations like in Singapore where there's laws put in place? Can you share anything? Yes.
Well, in Mexico, we tend to follow more than lead in all these aspects, which is quite sad. I mean, we're trying to do an effort as TGS, as a network, to actually make a difference, and I think I mean, we're doing more than most networks are doing, but unfortunately, there is not a lot of initiatives that come out of Mexico, at least. I mean, that would be the case of Mexico.
Great. Thank you, Horacio. TGS Ecuador.
Hi. Well, actually, here in Ecuador, and I would say like in South America, we don't see this kind of movement because we have other kind of problems, so it's kind of difficult to start from scratch and to apply these kind of ideas in terms of female power or sustainability as such. So we try to start this, but unfortunately here in South America as such, we don't see that much. So actually, well, as TGS, we would like to start or to take the initiative in order to start here in Ecuador, for example.
Okay, perfect. So somebody want to ask something for the speakers, or a question, general question? No?
Let me give one advice. I was trying to fill out the survey, the online survey for the Global Compact.
Yes.
And I didn't know all the information that I needed to fill it out. So yeah, just it would be good if you, before we start filling it out, you say, well, you're gonna need information on the percentage of employees, of the percentage of female employees, because I had to stop and then go and ask my office for all that information. I knew what the subject was, but I didn't know how much detail you wanted. I did it last year and I had forgotten for this one. Just it would be useful. It would be useful if beforehand we know that we're gonna need this and this and this and that.
That's a great suggestion. I'll let our survey team know that maybe some pre-read, just an overview of what you need would be helpful.
Yeah, like just a brief instructions and try to get this before you start doing your survey.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the participants? If not, we should end this webinar. And this is the first 2 series of the webinar which I've conducted. We hope to do more in-depth webinar on sustainability reporting in the future. And at this juncture, we welcome feedback and more ideas as to how to make this a better webinar. So without further ado, I thank thank you all participants for logging in to this webinar. And I look forward to your feedback. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you again, we want for your availability and commitment. And thank you, Victor, for your help in this webinar. And don't forget that you can comment and post your questions on the hub too. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.